Hi everyone, this is Rich and this is Beekeeping with Rich. It's November the 15th, 2021 in South Florida. Temperatures 78 degrees, high light clouds and a blue sky, beautiful weather. Today we're going to go into my closet because I accidentally teased you with the last video with a little bit of my closet, but not really intending to start a video on it. So we'll just do a video on the closet this time. We're going to start over here. Oh, actually, first thing I want to mention to you is I'm an 8-frame beekeeper. And this is all set up for an 8-frame beekeeper, but it works the same for 10 frames because there is one piece of, or two pieces of 10-frame equipment in here. A 10 to 8 frame adapter and a 10 to 5 frame adapter. And they fit just the same way, and they are a good 3 inches inside the door, so it works just fine for them too. I don't want to run over everything I did last time, but just to recap, a 1x2 in the front held in place by a steel angle bracket with a fender washer on the outside to reinforce it. There is no shelf there, there is no back to it. This is the only rest that the equipment has, and that works just fine. I want to explain all of this stuff is pretty much called appliances. It's all the odds and ends, bits and bangles and baubles that a beekeeper uses around the brood box and the supers to achieve all the different things that he wants to achieve. It gives you flexibility. Always order these things in advance and have them on hand because, oh gee, I need something to do X, Y, or Z, and you don't already have it, well, then by the time you get it, it's probably way too late. So my wife always says I have to have one of everything, and yeah, I have to have one of everything before I need it. What do I need that for? Well, I don't need it today, but next week I may need it. At least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, first thing, to recap what was said last week, this is your standard bee escape, and I'm not a fan of them in South Florida because drones get caught in them. And for the rest of the country, drones are only a problem for a few months out of the year. Down here, drones are year-round. It is November the 15th, and hive number 2 over there, hello birdie, hive number 2 over there has capped drone cells in it, and all 3 hives have drones hanging out because they're just always here. We're never without at least a certain percentage of drones in our colonies. As I mentioned, I don't care for that old standard bee escape. I much prefer this plastic piece right here. You don't have to order it with a frame around it. You can simply order this piece. 2 screws holds it on here. You loosen them up, you index it, you take it off. If you got drones caught in there, you can clean them out with no problem. And I also find that drones don't get caught in this one as much. So if you haven't already invested in one of these and you're looking to get a bee escape, this one works much better. And you can build your frame around it any which way you want. With a bee escape, you normally use a fume board, which is nothing more than a wooden rim, a piece of aluminum. They usually come silver, I paint it black. On the inside, there's a piece of felt. You spray Bee Gone on the felt. You put that on top of a super with that underneath the super, and it'll clear the bees out in pretty short order. Saves a lot of work. Next thing, I always have a few of these on hand. These are dual purpose bottom boards, top entrances. I was taught this design by Lee Winowski up in West Palm Beach. Piece of 5/8 inch plywood, 3/4 inch across here, an inch, not 20 inches, but 21 inches. This makes a quick bottom board when you need a quick hive that you're only going to be using for a short while. It also makes a top cover with an upper entrance. So very versatile and flexible. Having a few of these around, if you suddenly, find yourself needing to put a swarm into a hive and you're tapped out on your standard hive equipment, a few of these go a long way. We mentioned these last time, just a couple of pieces of old canvas which you can cover a piece of a hive with, presumably one that has the frames in it, so that you're only working a few frames, rather like top bar beekeepers do. I started out as a top bar beekeeper and I liked the concept and I just keep on using it. Yeah. That's just an old standard bottom board. You don't throw away anything. This isn't actually anything in particular. It is a piece of PVC board that I made into a shim, and I use it to store primarily these placemats. The cool thing about these placemats is they're just the right size to temporarily toss on to keep most of the bees out of your hair, as it were, while you're working, just the same way the canvas thing was. Just throw that in there. And any other small odds and ends that are flexible and might crumple down, that just has a good use for it. Here's some different designs for double screened boards. This one just did 3 big holes, screens on both sides. It's a good thing to use if you're trying to introduce 2 colonies and you want to take a few days to do it. Here's the same thing again, but just a different cutout. Using the narrow screen that you can get in rolls, much less expensive than getting the wide screen. You don't have to cut it. If you want to do a professional job, here's a store-bought double screen board with all these entrances on it. Those obviously do not have any entrances on them. They're just simple replacements for the old newspaper method, as it were. When particularly since our bees are Africanized down here, they're a little more defensive, they're a little more suspicious. Better that they be kept separate for a couple of days when you're going to put them together. This is something I came up with. This is a 5-frame to 8-frame adapter when you're going to put them together for a while. And the reason I put the rim up here is we get an awful lot of rain down here and a lot of hard rain. So this makes sure that there's no leakage going through, and it has a front entrance so that things can stay in place there. A good way to get a 5-frame and an 8-frame or 10-frame merged. These, of course, are simply the bottom boards for the IPM. These are the IPM trays for our bottom boards there. Most of the year they're not in. If it gets really cold, they'll be in if I want to check something with them. Well, here's just another one of those 5-frame adapters there. On to more normal stuff. All the screened inner covers. It's very useful to go ahead and write on them what they are so you're not having to dig through them. Quite a variety of screened inner covers over the years. But screened inner covers, standard inner covers, more standard inner covers. Snipe signs. Corbon, of course, cut to size. so that they fit just like that. And you think, oh, that's just something else to cover them up when you're doing things. Well, it is that, but notice I have double hives. And so a lot of times I don't want to say put 2 supers. It would be the equivalent if you had a single box system of stacking 2 supers on at the same time. Gives us bees too much space. But I have to have a more or less balanced situation there, so one of those plastic pieces can slide between the brood box and the super on one side, and that just means they're working on one side, not both. And then when they get to where they have 6.5 of the 8 frames on one side done, well, I'd simply slide the plastic piece out from the other side, and they're free to go in there and start working on that one. Now here's one of the most interesting and useful things around. This is an Amiri Shim. I buy these unassembled. Not that it's a problem to make them, it's a very simple joint. It's just 3/4 by 3/4 wood with an entrance right here. If you need just a little more room for all kind of things, if you want to make an upper entrance without drilling a hole in your box, this is a good way to go. I don't care to do that so much because I don't like the gap that it makes, because maybe it slows down the bees going up there. I like to have them flush to it so that they have an easy step, but a lot of people will do it this way. What happens if you don't want that hole right there? Well, that's what this little plastic bag is for. I mean, it's not like it has to be a jam fit or anything. That's enough to keep the bees from going anywhere. But they're so useful, so many different ways. Maybe you need a little more space because of something. Maybe you have a shim that isn't quite high enough to use with your new rapid feeder you just got. Well, instead of taking the time to build a whole new frame today, you just throw one of those on top of what you do have, and you're good to go until you can get back and make yourself a deeper shim. We have, of course, well, we'll do that. Not everyone has a friend who can see to getting this for them, but down here in Florida we have to have our numbers on the sides, and there's my numbers. Go to places I need to store it. Won't lose it that way. Now I do have standard queen excluders, but I really do prefer the ones that come in a frame. It's just a personal preference. A lot of people would never be bothered with putting them in here like this. I just happen to prefer it. And next time I am making an order from somewhere that you can buy the wooden frame pieces for repair on these, I'll order a few more and put more of my queen excluders into the wooden frames. That's just a glass cover. Sometimes you want to demonstrate the bees to people, but particularly kids can be terrified, so in the middle of this is a piece of glass with this framed around it. I just have it protected with this. Been a long time since this had any use, but this is a medium to deep adapter. If for some reason I have to bring in something in a deep box, I mean a 5-frame nuke is no problem, that's full of 5-frame nukes right there, but if I have to do something where I have to make some deep frames, maybe I'm helping a friend out and holding on to something, but I can put this underneath my medium box and I've now got a deep box. This is something I once used a lot more than I do now, but it still has enough different uses that I want to continue holding on to them. So you notice this is just half-inch hardware cloth. The bees come back and forth through this easily. And this was originally a feeder. Put a piece of newspaper, squirt some water on it, pour some sugar on it, throw a patio over in the corner if you wanted to or whatever. That was its primary purpose. It can also be used as insulation because you could, if you felt it was going to get cold enough, I could put this on top with some folded towels in it or something to make a little more insulation. That was before the days when I started using the shims that I use for the feeders on there, because they insulate things quite well because they have a heavier wood bottom and such, at least for South Florida. But so this can be used as a quilt board, would be the term that you'd use in parts of the country where it's cold enough to use them. It's not down here. And the single most valuable piece of equipment, as far as I'm concerned, for beekeeping in South Florida, the Slatted Rack. An absolutely wonderful piece of equipment, and one that I highly recommend to everyone, and anyone who's taken my advice and started using them immediately goes, wow, how did I ever live without it? Because in the hot afternoons down here when all the bees are outside, you know, piled up on the box, and you go, oh my gosh, are they swarming or are they just hot in the afternoon? Well, put one of these on and the next day you'll find out, because this basically is a large enclosed patio for the bees. This goes above the bottom board and under the brood chamber, and it acts as a space for the excess bees to hang out, where they're far enough away from the brood that their heat doesn't affect them. Literally overnight, you can go from having large masses of bees on the side of your box to, oh, where'd all those bees go? They must have swarmed. Nope, they're just underneath here. Why does it have a piece like this in front and the slats back here? Because this means that sunlight doesn't bounce up and into the hive off of the bottom board, and it means that rain doesn't hard driving rain doesn't bounce in and come up on the underside into the brood chamber either. And notice, look, this has been used quite a lot, but notice how clean it is overall. The bees don't propolize it. All of these have been in use. Notice propolis around the back, sealing it up some, but they leave this perfectly clean. And, well, this is just something I haven't gotten rid of yet. This is your old-fashioned top box feeder. It's all nice and sealed. The bees come up through here, they come down here, they drink and eat. That's all well and good, but you can't put this in the dishwasher. I love my rapid feeders because this you can put in the dishwasher, or that you can put in the dishwasher. This you can't. Now to the doors.
Can we make the doors another video?
Could we make the doors another video? Is this one getting too long? All right, well, we'll make the doors another video, and we'll call it there for now. Have a great Thanksgiving, since we're coming up on that holiday down here. I guess everywhere else everybody's winding down. For us, it's just kind of a pause before we start into spring, which usually starts by towards the end of the second week in January. So we have a little time to prep some things, but not too much before we get into it. So long, have a great time, happy Thanksgiving, bye-bye.